Hey guys, we're going to start notes on conic sections, and our first lesson is going to be over circles and parabolas. So what I want you to kind of see here is that we have, in these pictures right here, we have these cones. They're called double napped cones because they are one cone's on top of the other. And when you do a cross section, if you remember from geometry, when we intersect a right circular cone with a plane, this right here is an axis of symmetry. Depending on how, I didn't draw that very well, sorry, but depending on how you draw or insert that plane to intersect it, you form different conic sections. So if you do it perpendicular to the plane, you're creating a circle. At this angle, you're creating a parabola. At this angle, you're creating an ellipse, and at this angle, you're creating a hyperbola. Sorry. So we're going to learn about these different types of conics in this unit. So a circle is a set of all points in a plane that are equidistant, so that means the same distance, from a fixed point called the center. So we have these equations of a circle. This is the standard form here. This is the general form. When you have it in standard form, it's pretty helpful because it will tell you that the center is at the point HK and the radius is R. In the general form, we'll usually need to do something called completing the squares to make it look like the standard form. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. And then this is a picture of a circle and showing you where the center is and where how the radius gets other points on the circle. All right, let's move on. Okay, so in example 1, we're going to write the standard form of an equation with the center at 0, 0 and a radius of 2. So if you have a center at 0, 0, let's see if I can get this to work. So your center is here at 0, 0. You have a radius of 2, so that means you go out 2. Well, I am not doing a very good job with this pen, sorry. So basically, you have your center at 0, 0, so if you put it in standard form, it would be x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals the radius, which is 2 squared. So an easier way to write it would be x squared plus y squared equals 4. I'm going to see if I can get a different pen real quick. Okay, I got a different pen. So I've drawn the center at 0, 0, and I made sure that I went out 2 units left, right, up, and down so that I could have a radius of 2 for that circle. All right, now we're going to write a circle where the center is at negative 2, 3. So I'm going to say x minus a negative 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals the radius squared. Simplifying that would be x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 16. And then you're going to go over to the point negative 2, 3, and then your radius is 4, so you'll go out 4. Let's see. And then just draw your circle. All right, so let's do another example. All right, this example is a little bit harder just because you don't have the equation in standard form, you have it in general form. So we're going to do the completing the squares to be able to see what the center and the radius are. So what I start with is by grouping the x's first, and you're going to be adding some number to that. You know what, I'm going to move this down a little bit. So I'm going to group my x's first. I'm going to be adding some number to this in order to complete the square, because remember, you want to be able to factor it so that it looks like this. This is what your standard form looks like. So when this trinomial right here will be able to factor to look like this. And then you're going to group your y's together. So you've got y squared plus 8y plus some number equals, I'm going to move the 11 over to the other side, so now it's a negative 11. Whatever I'm adding to the x trinomial and to the y trinomial, I need to add to the right side as well. Okay, now then how you figure out what you're going to be adding to both sides, you take this middle term right here, that negative 4, you divide it by 2, and you square it. So negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2, and when you square it, you get 4. So you're going to be adding 4 to both sides. Then for this trinomial, you'll take the 8, you'll divide it by 2, and you square it. So that's 4 squared, which will be 16. So you add 16 to both sides. And now you're going to go ahead and factor. You're going to factor this, and you're going to factor this. All right, so remember when you factor, you're going to have you're going to have x and x in your parentheses. And then you need a number here that multiplies to be that 4, and when you multiply it out, this and this will add to be that negative 4. Well, this is really nice when you do completing the squares, because what number you're always going to put in there is going to be this number before you squared it. So it'll be a minus 2 and a minus 2. And then when I factor the y's, it's going to be y plus 4 and y plus 4. And then over here we have 9 when you add all of those together. So this ends up being x minus 2 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 9. So my center is at 2, negative 4. And my radius will be, remember this was radius squared, so my radius will be the square root of that, which is 3. And then you can graph it. Your center, let me graph that real quick. Okay, so I've graphed that where my center is at 2, negative 4, and my radius is 3. All right, let's do another example. Okay, on this one, we're told that we have a circle with the center at 4, 5, so I'm going to plot that first right here. And they're telling us that it's tangent, the circle will be tangent to the y-axis. And if you'll remember in geometry, we used to talk about a tangent to a circle was just a line that touches the circle in exactly one point right there. So you're just needing to figure out what that point is along this y-axis, since it's tangent to that. Another thing we learned in geometry was that when you draw the radius to that point, that's called a point of tangency, it will always form a right angle there. So it has to be perpendicular. Well, the y-axis is a vertical line. A horizontal line is perpendicular to a vertical line, so you just need a horizontal line drawn from that center to that to the y-axis to show the radius. So that means that my radius is going to be 4, because it's 4 units away from the center. And then, you know, your radius is 4, so you can draw the rest of that circle. So it should look something like that. That's a circle with a center at 4, 5 that's tangent to the y-axis. So it's touching the y-axis in exactly one point. Okay, on this example, if you're going to do completing the squares, you need the number in front of your x squared and your y squared to be 1. And if you'll notice, all of these terms are divisible by 3. So I'm going to start this off by, because I have an equal sign, I'm able to do this. I'm going to divide everything by 3. So that becomes x squared plus y squared minus 6y plus 9 equals 16. And now I can do completing the squares. I'll do x squared. There's no other x to add with that, so I'm going to go straight to grouping the y's together. Remember, when you do completing the squares, you'll be adding something so that this trinomial that will become a perfect square trinomial. I'm going to move the 9 over here by subtracting it, which will make it equal to 7 on this side, and then add the same thing here and here. Okay, so now then x squared is done. I need to complete the square here. So remember, I take that negative 6 and I divide it by 2 and I square it to get 9, so I'll add 9 to both sides. Now I can go ahead and factor that. So that's going to factor to be y minus 3 squared equals 16. Now I know my center for this circle is at 0, 3, and my radius will be the square root of 16, which is 4. And then we can graph it. Okay, so this is that circle graphed with a center at 0, 3, and a radius of 4. All right, on this example, I'm going to write this in standard form. So I have x squared plus 4x plus some number plus y squared minus 6y plus some number equals, move the 23 over so it becomes positive, and then you're going to add those same two numbers on that side. You're going to take that 4, divide it by 2, and square it. So this will be 4 here and over here. Take the negative 6, divide it by 2, and square it. So that will be 9 added to both sides. Okay, and now when I factor it, I get x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 36. So this is the equation in standard form. And now you know what your center is. Your center will be at negative 2, 3, and your radius will be 6. All right, we're now going to do parabolas.